All right, so if you watched the TED Talk, hopefully you found it interesting. If not, let's go soldiering on. Okay. Another brief little interlude between videos, because in this section, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the effect of the hormones that babies are experiencing during prenatal development. This has become a little bit of a contentious issue in the past 5 years as people have debated what factors contribute to gender identity and sex organs and other kinds of things. So, during prenatal development, babies have two sources of hormone exposure. One source is their own body, and the other source is mom's body. So let's start with mom's body. Mom typically is flooded with estrogen and progesterone during pregnancy, which are hormones that are going to help protect the developing pregnancy. And then if she experiences bursts of stress, she'll typically secrete cortisol and testosterone from her adrenal glands as she's coping with an acute, very big stressor. So, for example, driving down the road and something flies off of the car in front of you, and you have to, try and react, stomp on your brakes, swerve, do something, to try and cope with this, this possible tragedy in the road ahead of you. After that happens, that shaky, scary feeling that you have, that's a burst of adrenaline, cortisol to cope with the stress, testosterone to help fix, the thought process really starkly on exactly this and nothing else. And so this burst of testosterone can cross the placenta and have an impact on the developing fetus. So that's one way that mom's body can have an impact on the developing fetus, is through bursts of testosterone like that. Fetuses are designed to be exposed to mom's progesterone and estrogen levels, and to a certain extent, it's benign. Estrogen and progesterone doesn't really do much to a developing fetus, but testosterone can have an effect. The way that the fetus is designed is to go down a default pattern that if exposed to estrogen and progesterone, this is how it will develop. This is the default pattern. It's the exposure to testosterone that'll change the pattern. And so in a fetus that has an X and a Y chromosome, the burst of testosterone that comes out of their own Y chromosome and ultimately then out of their testicles that develop as a function of that, those are the things that are going to change the developing fetus's brain and body shape and lungs and heart and things like that into a masculine design. The burst of testosterone that might come from mom having an acute stressor may affect either male or female babies, XX or XY babies, with a little masculinization. And there's been a lot of research on rats and other animals where pregnant moms of the species are exposed to something stressful for them, like having to swim or something like that. And then their babies baby brains are examined later, and they find that if a mom is exposed to a stressor while pregnant, their little offspring will have certain areas of their brain that become more like the other sex's brain, right? So it'll masculinize a female brain, it'll feminize a male brain. It's kind of a weird contradictory thing to say that the addition of testosterone could feminize a male brain, but addition of testosterone beyond what is expected may actually feminize a brain. So research on rats and other, lab animal type of research, combined with research that has occurred on humans that are always going to be ex post facto, we call them. We can't do these experiments to humans on purpose. So when we have situations that are acute stressors that we know about because they're society wide, we can then follow up with the offspring later on in their lives and see what kind of impact the acute stressor might have had on their developing brains. And so one really classic study was conducted on babies who were born to mothers who were pregnant during the German Blitzkrieg of London during World War II. So this is a pretty old study because they identified these moms who were pregnant, and they looked at a critical period. The moms needed to be pregnant between 5 and 8 months pregnancy during the Blitzkrieg. And they followed up with the offspring later, and what they found was an effect on the male offspring in particular. And what they discovered was that there was a significant increase in the rate of male offspring who identified as gay from these moms who had experienced this kind of stressor compared to moms who had not had that kind of stressor. So the hypothesis was offered that the environment could provide the kind of situation that could cause a biological underpinning for sexual orientation. So prenatal hormones have huge effects on our developing brains as well as our developing bodies. And so we have to remember the importance of the prenatal experience and the importance of not just what's coming out of the fetus's own endocrine system, but also what's coming out of the mom's endocrine system. So I think that's enough of a prelude to what I want you to take a look at next, which is this. This is a little bit longer video, but if you stick with it, I think you'll find a lot of things that are really relevant, not only having to do with prenatal exposure, but then over the lifetime, like ongoing exposure to testosterone and what it does for cognition and other kinds of things. So it's a pretty interesting piece. So I hope you'll stick with it. All right, I'll see you on the other side.